Hey, I'm Ozzy from Three Monkeys Solderless, and this is the video where I'm kind of going to go through the signal chain regarding the, what was it called? The EVH PrinceGaurd Demo video, right? I got some people that emailed me and were asking about, like, well, what was the signal chain? What was the guitar, the amp, the pickup, the whole thing through? And I promised to kind of go through and describe the whole thing for you to kind of show you how I'm getting that sound, if that's something that you dig. Yeah, so we're going to begin. But first, I just wanted to tell you news from Three Monkeys Solderless, right? This is really cool. So we have a new product, right? So now we've got these RCA cables, right? Gold plated, just incredible sounding, incredible construction, made in the USA in Pennsylvania. And we've got new kinds of cable too that go along with these, which have an extra shield in them. So they got the same big thick core, but it's more strands, right, to eliminate some of the skin effect, which, you know, basically the skin effect shows that high frequencies tend to ride on the outside of wires. The more strands you have, and then you can have more high frequency, you can have more definition. So we're calling this basically our low noise, high dynamic range cable, right? So we have the more stranded core, we have a braided shield, and then we have a mylar shield as well. So it's double insulated, has great capacitance per foot. It's very low noise, so it's good for like an automotive application, like if you wanted to put it in a car and stuff like that. But we'll talk more about these, but check them out on our site. And the cable comes in red and black, and you can also use it for your pedal boards. So anyway, so let's begin. So the guitar obviously was the EVH PrinceGaurd guitar, right? So it's the hard ash K&E body, a Warmoth neck maple, and then we have a vintage Mighty Mite pickup in there. This is a super stud, and as you can see, they're basically just no pole pieces, right? It's studs all the way across. It measures about 13K. It's very close in sound to the 1300, right? This is an 1800, I believe, and I believe the 1300 is the hotter wind, and Mighty Mite has a version of it available right now, like a reissue of it if you can't find the original ones. And I did a video comparing the old to the new, and I think they sound pretty cool too. So we got the guitar, right? Very simple. Running through some of the Three Monkeys solderless cable, right? In orange. And then we're going directly into this amp right here, which is basically a design I've been working on for like 20 some odd years, right? And what it is, it's a 50 watt head, and it's a unique circuit that I came up with based upon like a Marshall circuit. It has very familiar settings to anybody that's ever used a Marshall, right? Presence, bass, middle, treble. In this case, with this panel, I have it labeled high, treble, and normal, right? 4 inputs. You got 3 preamp tubes, 2 power tubes, solid state rectifier, right? A very conventional 50 watt amp, but I've done some things to it that you know, I've come up with over the years to get this sound. So it's like a 2-channel amp, right? Like a normal Marshall Plexi is, but it sounds, you know, it sounds different, you know. Let's turn it on. Right? Cleans up too. All right, so from our 50 watt here, we have our cable coming out, and it's going over to the Aux Box, which is, I'm trying to point at it right here. See the Aux Box? All right, and that is set on, I believe the setting that they've got is like their version of Sunset Sound, sort of like Reverb, right? So it's a greenback cabinet, which they offer as another setting too, just called Greenback Punch. But this adds some plate reverb, right? Some EMT, which isn't quite right. exactly for that application, right? In Sunset Sound, they did have EMTs, they had chambers, they had all that kinds of stuff. So there can be, you know, a little bit of fudging around with that too to get your sound dialed in. All right, so out of the Aux Box, I'm just going into this, which is on the floor, right? A little Scarlett, very simple Focusrite Scarlett. There's the cables in the back coming out of the Aux Box, the green one and the red one. And that mic is my voice, which is off camera here. Let's see if we can get it in camera. See it? All right, so there it is. So I can put it back down on the floor. All right, so from there it goes into my laptop, which is what we're recording into. And I've got it going into GarageBand to blend in all the different signals, right? So you have 3 signals right now, my mic and left and right out of the Aux Box. Okay, so there are some things you can do in the box, right? In the in GarageBand to kind of like, you know, maybe play with the signal a little bit more. And sometimes I do that. So, you know, what we could do is we can actually, let's go into GarageBand and just look around a little bit and see what we can find. All right, so I'll see you in GarageBand. Okay, so here we are inside of I don't know what version of GarageBand this is, but it's probably pretty old considering that everything I got is kind of old. All right, so we have a bunch of tracks. Not all of them are being used. But basically this track here is the microphone, right? Then we have 2 guitar tracks. Let me silence this out. I'm not sure what that track is. That shouldn't be doing anything. Sometimes I'll put in like a drum track there to play along with. All right, so these 2 right here are for the guitar left and right. So let's just listen to the left side and the right side and see what they are. So we'll take out this right here, which I believe should be like a lot of the reverb should go away now. Well, some of it's still there. Let's try it this way. All right, so there's like the big reverb, right? Okay, and then this side has some of the reverb, but more of the dry, right? All right, now let's look at whether there's any kind of like goodies on here. So let's go to the dry channel, which is right here. Let's see what's going on here. Okay, had it muted. Sorry about that. Now, I have some plugins here, which none of them are on, right? So it's pretty much dry, right? We're just using the Aux Box as the main signal sort of effect, if you want to call it an effect in a way. So we're using the IR out of the aux. Let's go into the reverb side or more reverb side, and let's see what we got, right? Okay, so as you can see, actually, did I do that right? I think it might have been on there. Okay, yeah, I goofed up, but that's normal for me. All right, so let's go back again. Ignore whatever I have said. All right, so let's go back to this channel, right? So this is sort of a dry channel again. Now let's look and see. Probably there's still nothing on here. Right, there's nothing on. All right, so I was correct about that. All right, so let's move on again, and we'll go into the more reverb channel, right? Go into the track, obviously, and let's look at the plugins. We have you can see right here, the Sunset Sound plugin from IK Multimedia, right? And this is, I think I've done a video with this in here, but I'm going to bring it up. Right, so there's the plugin, and we have it set for a plate, right? And this is a single plate reverb, and we're adding that in. Because I have a feeling, you know, that they did chamber reverb or multiple reverbs to get that final sort of big sound on one of those channels, right? So the way I have this set up is pretty much, you know, equal wet and dry. Messed around with the decay a little bit, but kept everything pretty flat, right? Our high frequency filter is a high pass frequency is off. Our low pass is off. The accentuations in high and low are basically set flat 0 dB. The decay is at 50, what am I at, 8%. And pre-delay is 20 milliseconds. Okay, so that's for this plate. So I'm going to turn it off and you can hear the difference. I mean, that sounds pretty good right there, right? That's pretty much just the Aux Box's reverb. But when you put this on, it adds some fullness, I feel. Right? Now, just for kind of like fun, let's just see what like if we use the chamber would be like, right? So we're going to go to chamber, and we've got Studio One's chamber right here. So let's see how that would sound if we added that. Turn it off. Turn it back on. Let's try Studio 2's chamber, right? Let's try Studio 3's. This one's got a kind of cool sound, I think, always. Right? And then we could go back to plates. So this was the original plate that I had it set on, just a single one. Now plate 2, there's, I don't know why they call it plate 2 when there's 3 of them, but that's okay. Okay, so we're going to go back to, you know, this is the thing, right? So in some of those Sunset Sound videos, they were talking about maybe Landy having put both, right? They used the echo chamber. So we go back to the chamber. And I think maybe it was this one, right? Studio 2's, let's say. And then they added EMT plate reverb on top of that, right? So the Aux Box will give us the EMT, and this will give us the chamber. So we'll see. To me, that one sounds pretty cool. All right, so let's leave that one there. Now, another thing that we can do, right, is we can go into the dry sound, right? Now, the dry sound does have some reverb in it, but maybe we want to add a little bit of the flavor of the room in there, right? So let's go to of the studio room, right? The overhead, so to speak. So let's go and let's open up our little guy here, our little plug-in of the studio reverb, and let's see. We got the live room going, and this is, which studio is this? Studio 1. Okay. Let's turn it on and see what it does. Right, so you get that early reflection kind of sound, right? It's almost like a doubling. That Marshall cab whacking off the ceiling and the floor and the glass and all over the place, giving you that kind of ambience of the room. Right, turn it back off again. Right? This is a little more distant sounding, actually, funny enough. This sounds like it's more in front. So that's kind of cool. Let's see what would happen if we had gone into Studio 2 and added some room sound, if it was in fact recorded in Studio 2. It's a little deader in there, right? right? That doesn't sound as lively as when you're kind of get some of the room mics going. All right, so we're going to go back to Studio One. Okay, so we like that. Now we can add back in the big reverb, right? So we unmute that, and we have the big reverb sound now. Okay, now we're going to go to the master, right? Okay, now we have nothing on in the master, right? I think this sounds pretty good as it sits right now, but I've got this Pultec little guy here, which is kind of interesting too, which I think is definitely part of the sound, right? And it allows you to add frequencies that go way up, right? Way up the bandwidth. So right now I have... it also allows you to mess with the low end too, which gives you a cool effect of boosting and cutting the same frequency over here. The bandwidth, which would be the Q of that particular circuit, right? How wide it is, whether it affects a very narrow frequency band or a very wide frequency band. That's your Q. And then over on this section, we have what's dedicated to the high frequency, right? So you can select what you're going to boost here, and we're at 12K, and what you want to attenuate, and you got 10K, right? So let's listen to that, putting it back in, right? Let's bring this in. We'll move it in and out. So to me, it has a tendency to kind of fatten it up and make it a little bit more like Angora hair, as opposed to be like kind of like sharp porcupine hair, right? So the hair is a little bit softer. So I kind of like the way that sounds, right? So the there's a few more tricks that we could try later, but I don't want this video to go on till the end of time, right? So let's leave our GarageBand right now set up like this, and we'll go back to looking at my goofy ass face. All right. So just wanted to talk maybe just a tiny bit more about the amp, right? I'm not going to really talk too much about what's in there. I'm not really comfortable with doing that at this point. But suffice it to say, it's interesting, right? So we have our two channels here, and let's play around with some ideas with it, right? So let's try jumping the channels, right? Because this is basically, the channel I'm in right now is only using half of this 12AX7, right? So we have our, standard Marshall sort of arrangement, with one half of a 12AX7 being used for this channel, the other half being used for this channel. The second 12AX7 is being used for the tone stack. And then the third over here is the phase inverter, right, to drive the power tubes, which are here. So let's try jumping these things, right? So I got our 3 Monkeys cable right here, which makes really good jumping stuff, right? Because you can make it super small too. So it just spans your inputs right there, right? I'm also in the low input. That was weird. Let's go into the high input. I goofed up. Oops. how much of a difference that actually made. A bit. So we'll go back in here again. Sorry for all the crisply crackly stuff when I'm switching stuff around. All right, so we were going to jump. No pun intended, right? So I should probably just mute this thing while I'm doing this stuff, but there we go. All right, so now they're both jumped. So let's do that. We'll turn it up. Right, so it does clean up pretty cool. Because I just didn't want to like slam a bunch of gain stages together and call it a day, right? Because that never sounded right to me. It always sounded like, you know, sort of like a Soldano or a Boogie or a JCM 800. It never ever sounded like a Plexi anymore. So I'm gonna unjump the channels again. Yeah, let's turn up the. I've got the bass set pretty low, but that's. You know, that tightens things up a bit for stuff we wanted to go like that. So we'll bring up the bass a bit. It gets pretty bassy, right? So it's for my ears, and the way it reacts with the aux, right? I like the bass turned down. Now, if you were to put into a Marshall cab, you'd probably crank it back up again, right? Yeah, so that's sort of how it sounded. Now, I always like playing around with different things, right? I'm never really doing the same thing twice, but probably doing exactly the same thing all the time, if you know what I mean. So anyway, I think that's good for now. So thanks for tuning in. If you got any questions, put them down in the comments down there, and I'll try to answer them. I'm not going to tell you what's in this, though, so don't ask that, all right? And don't forget to check out 3 Monkey Solderless, and I'll be back soon with some more stuff. All right, I'll see you later.